Well, I said if I got bored, I'd probably cut some tubing, and I got bored. This is day 4. Yeah, day 4. Fourth consecutive day, actually. And I've got the sides cut. I've got one of the front pieces cut. There's a lot of angles on these pieces of tubing. This doesn't all go with it. Just some tubing I had that was pre-cut for something else I was working on, and had some left over. But I got a cut list that I'm going to provide, but you don't have to cut all these angles if you don't want to. I just it fits together nicer. It's easier to weld up that way. But anyway, so this is basically one of the side pieces that we saw in the drawing. This one still needs to be cut to length. Then there's these short pieces. They go out in the front, and then one goes straight across, and then it comes back down onto this side. Some more progress. Got the angled pieces cut for the top and bottom. Still cutting a few struts to go across and some of the vertical pieces, but these are all working out pretty good. Cutting the angles was a bit of a challenge. They're not all the same. This is about 30 degrees. This is about 22 degrees. So I think I'm going to change the CAD drawing before I put it up on the group page so that all these angles are the same. So if you're cutting with a bandsaw like I am, you just set one angle and just cut all your angles. We don't need to change them. But dimensionally, it did come out exactly where it was supposed to. It's supposed to be 10 7/8 across here, and it is exactly 10 7/8. So I'm going to put the back rib in here, and that'll hold the back at 10 7/8. So just tack that, and then tack the front together, and then basically do exactly the same thing for the bottom, because they're almost identical. And I'll be 2/3 of the way there with the inner frame. Something I wanted to go over with you guys. This is an old machine that I built. It's really just a digitized drill press, but the rails down here that are in use on this machine, I think could be used for the reloading press instead of the heavy rails I use. And I've got a different type of rail. It's called an optical rail. So really, that's a 25 millimeter bar. It's really heavy. And then I just got these sliding bearing blocks. I think that could also be used, and those are a lot cheaper. Probably $20 for a 5-foot stick of that 25 millimeter bar, and I think the blocks were $30 for a set of 4 of them. So that's a much cheaper option. And so are these. These are called SBR rails down here. These are 16 millimeter, and they make them up to 30 that I've seen. But they're a lot cheaper than the HDR rails that I'm using. And I'm only using those because I had them left over from building a vertical mill project. So I got to put this back together this winter. But this was left over. The rails I'm using are leftover parts from this build. So that's why I'm using them. But they're a more expensive version than I think what you need. All right, some more progress. Not quite done there. I got to position this bar and tack it in. The angles close up nicely. These are parallel within a 32nd of an inch. Like it. These turned out real good and square and parallel. So pretty happy so far. I'm gonna get this welded up and get basically a copy of this made. One for the top, one for the bottom. And as small as it is, now that I'm looking at it, I may only need to do the epoxy casting on the top of it where it holds the die holders. I'm not sure yet. I'll probably at least try to run it without doing any of the epoxy casting for stiffness, and we'll just see how it goes. I'm going to call it quits for today. This is the inner subframe. I split it out between a frame and a subframe just to make the dimensioning easier, but I've got it all tacked together. It measures out square with a tape measure. I'm not going to say it's perfect because I'm checking it with a tape measure. I did check it with framing squares, machinist squares, and other things, but it's just tacked at the moment, so it still needs to be completely welded up. But all that's left for the frame is the 4 outer legs, one on each corner, and then there's a bar that goes across here to mount the ball screw to. Not bad for a single day. I'd say probably 4 hours of work, and probably 3 hours and 59 minutes was waiting on my bandsaw to cut the material. So it really wasn't too bad. Till next time.